On this week's episode of Ride the Lightning, the Tesla unofficial podcast, Tesla's Vice President of Engineering, Lars Moravy, joins me for a candid conversation spanning a wide-ranging number of topics. From the new Model Y to his memories of pivotal moments in Tesla history, to the next-gen Roadster and even the upcoming more affordable cars. Enjoy. What's happening, friends? I'm Ryan McCaffrey, and welcome to Ride the Lightning. It is your weekly Tesla unofficial podcast. This is episode number 499. It is a special one. This one's publishing on February 23rd, 2025. And you know, most weeks I report on and give analysis of each week's Tesla news, but this week is a very, very special week. This week, I'm the one making the Tesla news here on Ride the Lightning. I am so extremely thrilled to check a bucket list item off of my Tesla podcast wish list. Tesla's Vice President of Engineering, Lars Moravy, is my special guest this week. I went down to Tesla's engineering headquarters in Palo Alto, about 35 minutes or so south of me. That was about a week and a half ago. I sat down with him on Thursday, February 13th, and that interview is coming up in just a few minutes. But first, a couple of housekeeping items. I wanted to start by thanking everyone who voted in last week's Patreon poll about whether or not, as I approach episode 500 and start to think about the next 500 episodes, whether or not you want to hear about other EVs besides Teslas on this podcast. And it turns out an overwhelming majority of you do want to hear about other stuff. So we will talk about that more in the near future. I'd also like to thank those of you who voted in this week's Patreon poll, which asks you, what topic are you most excited to hear Lars talk about on this podcast right now? And no matter what topic you voted for, spoiler, you're going to get to hear about all of them. I hope you enjoy the interview. And I'll just note, if you're a first-time listener, if you're jumping into this podcast for the first time or maybe first time in a long time, remember to vote in the Patreon poll every week on my Patreon page, which is patreon.com/Tesla podcast. The poll is totally free. You do not have to be supporting me on Patreon to get access to the poll. That is just something I put up for everybody because I want to hear from all of you on a particular topic each week. Oh, and by the way, coming up after the Lars interview will be my behind-the-wheel impressions of the new Model Y. So when I got to Tesla, I get set up in a conference room, Lars walks in, shakes my hand, and says, "You want to go for a drive?" And he hands me the key card to a new Model Y, and we both went out, and we just took a little cruise around Palo Alto. So I will give you my impressions of the new Model Y from behind the wheel. I know test drives have started in a few different cities, and so some of you may have also gotten the chance, but I will give you a little rundown of how that went after the interview. Real quick, before I get to that interview, I want to mention that this is your last chance to enter Climate Exchange's 9th EV raffle. Are you dreaming about driving home a brand new, perhaps, Model Y? What if I told you that your dream is possible if you enter Climate Exchange's 9th EV raffle? Their grand prize winner can choose from over 60 EVs on the market, including, of course, any Tesla configured however you want. Even better, they also pay all of the fees and taxes on the car, meaning you get your dream car with zero out-of-pocket cost. And Climate Exchange is giving away 2 additional cash prizes, $12,500 for their second place winner and $7,500 for their third place winner. Proceeds benefit a small nonprofit that's doing really important work for our planet to help states pass climate policies. So no matter what, your ticket is supporting an important cause. Ticket sales end very, very soon. In fact, this week on February 26th. So right now is the time to enter Climate Exchange's EV raffle. The tickets have been selling quickly. Very few, vanishingly few, of the 5,000 tickets remain, so get yours before they sell out. Go to carbonraffle.org/RTL to get your tickets, or click the link in the episode description. That's carbonraffle.org/RTL. Also, a quick word from my friends at Accelerate Auto. The founding team at Accelerate Auto came out of Tesla in those early years of the company. Now, maybe they weren't quite there as long as Lars, but they share the passion for tech innovation, resilience, and reliability. When they developed X-Care, the first extended warranty exclusive to EVs, they built in all of that first-hand experience with electric vehicles and their components. X-Care isn't your grandmother's extended warranty, that is for darn sure. If you heard episode 498 last week, you'll recall they celebrated X-Care's 6th anniversary on Valentine's Day and have gifted my listeners a sweet deal that's on the table for just one more week, $200 off when you select their one-time payment option. The code is RTLOVE, RTLOVE. Take advantage of it by February 28th. That code again, RTLOVE. And now on to the main event, the interview with Lars. It is about 49 minutes and change long. Sit back, enjoy, and then I'll come back after and tell you a little bit about my time with the Model Y and then wrap things up for you. My extremely special guest this week is Lars Moravy. He is the Vice President of Engineering at Tesla. We are here down at the engineering headquarters in Palo Alto. Lars, thanks so much for having me by.
Thanks for having me. I know we talked about this 1010? Like it was the first time we
back at the Robotaxi event. And I shot my shot and you were like, sure, let's do it. So that's why you gotta shoot your shot.
Just ask. Yeah, it took a little while, but we got it done.
We got here. So I feel like one reason I'm really genuinely happy to have you on here is because you're in the public eye in the Teslaverse, but it's usually you've got your partner in crime, Franz, with you all the time. But I feel like nobody's really gotten to know you a little bit and sort of what makes you tick. Because you've been at Tesla for a long time.
Yeah.
We're going to get into that. So have you been into cars your whole life, or was it your passion for engineering that led you to where you are?
I think, I wouldn't say my whole life. I think when I was around learning how to drive, it was like we're a little older, right? Like we didn't have cell phones when we were growing up.
Yeah.
And so getting your license was freedom.
That's
right?
true.
And my brother got his license. He's a couple years older than me. And we spent a lot of the summers in Sweden. All of them actually when I was growing up, because my family's from there. And we lived on a farm in the middle of nowhere in Sweden. And so getting a car was going to be like the best thing ever. But the only car opportunity we had was this like old, I want to say it was like 1970-ish Volvo 140 that my grandfather had that didn't run. And so
hometown pride with that Volvo.
Yeah, everyone in Sweden has a Volvo, right? And so my brother had his license, but he's like definitely more electrically inclined. And so I was like 14 and a half, 15, and I was like, I'm gonna fix this car so we can have a fun summer. So I did, and when you find something that your mind can like stay with, that like it was literally I would spend hours in the garage just like trying to fix this thing.
Yeah.
I realized sort of then I was like, man, I really enjoy this. Like, not just looking at cars and the beauty of cars, but like
what makes them tick,
what makes them work. And so got the car running. We had a great summer. We had a lot of great summers after that. Well, a couple before we went to, off to college. And I think that's when it all started. And from that moment, I knew I wanted to be in the automotive industry.
I love that.
It was like single track mind from that moment on.
That. I can relate to that. Yeah. So you got your start in the automotive industry from, according to everything I could find, right out of Northwestern.
Yep.
You got a job at Honda, if I'm reading the timeline right.
Actually interned at Honda for a little, like one summer, and then I took a job there. Right after graduation.
So how was that first job? After you got on this one-track mind about it. How was it?
It was. I have nothing bad to say about my experience at Honda R&D. They taught me a lot. I got, I had worked at a couple other internships, in various, like I was in Germany, in Munich for like an exchange program, and I got to work with Siemens a little bit out there. And anyway, the thing about Honda, and one of the reasons I went there was it was much like a startup mentality, because Honda in the US, from an engineering perspective, only started in like the late 80s.
Yeah.
Right? And so they at that point, they were just doing like North American, adaptations. And when I was there as an intern, like I realized that they were starting to get real projects, like real new car development. And like the team was still small. So I got, a little bit of trial by fire. I had chief engineer there. His name was Kenichi Ono. Ono's son, we used to call him. And he was probably like 5'2", like maybe 100 pounds soaking wet. And he would come to these meetings and he would sit on the table like Yoda and just like command engineering knowledge down on you.
Wow.
And he told me once that in the US, to become a Honda engineer, it was like a forging. Like you take a hot piece of metal and you just hit it as hard as you can until it gets to the right shape. Whereas like in Japan, they had much more time to develop people. And so I really think he was right, because we got, I learned so much so fast, because, in Japan, there might be like 7 people doing suspension design for one car. In the US, there was like one. It was like, go, here, you've got the new MDX, go do it. And I learned a lot from them, because Honda has very similar principles to what we do at Tesla. You have to defend things from the ground up. We did math, it wasn't just like a bunch of spreadsheets that already existed. And so it was really great that I got that experience. I had a lot of good mentors there. Ono-san was great. Hasegawa-san, I'll call them all out. Ozumi-san. And got opportunity to go to Japan and learn from them a little bit. And but somewhere, after 8-9 years there, I sort of realized like there was a limit to what Honda was going to do.
Yeah.
And I think I guess I was pretty close to, Roadster 2.0 Sport at an auto show. I was like, oh man, this electric thing's pretty sweet. And at that point, my ideas were kind of changing a little bit about what I wanted to do. Like I went to Honda for the opportunity to learn a lot, and then I did learn a lot, but then I really was starting to have this like existential crisis about like the environment and the future. And like, I was dating this beautiful girl, and we were talking about getting married, and I was thinking like, this world has to be left better than I got here. That's like we as humans all should think that way. Like we only get one planet until, Mars. But like we got to take care of it, and sort of merge that with Tesla. Was like merging my passion for cars with that like other sort of feeling I had coming up, and I was like, wow, this is like the perfect place to work for me. I'm going to go get a job there. And then my friend, I know I'm just kind of rambling here.
No, this is exactly what I want to know.
And then my friend, Dustin Grace, he had been he's, do you want to look up Dustin? He was one of the original OG Tesla guys. He was battery team here. Our other friend, Derek, got married in 2008-9, I guess, in St. Thomas. And we all went down there. And this was about the time Tesla was getting the DOE money.
Yep.
And so Dustin's there, and he's working here. And he's like, hey guys, because we're all engineers, like just college friends, friends from Honda that we'd all worked together. And he's like, I just want to let you know I gave the recruiters all of your names, so expect a call next week. And this was like August maybe of 2009, because I came here in 10, right? And then like a few weeks later, got a call, worked it out. I was a second chassis engineer at Tesla, and
now, were you working on the Roadster from the jump, or for the Model S program?
That was like the DOE loan was for the Model S. Yeah. I actually did like one wheel design for the Roadster. It was like mind blowing for me, because at Honda everything was about pennies and like cents, and like we calculated cost to the 4th decimal point of a dollar, and so like wheels was like every car had one wheel and it better be really cost effective. Got here, and I remember Radu, he was a designer, Roadster 2.0 Sport. All 4 wheels were different. Because, they had like a fan profile.
Right.
And so the left and right were different because they wanted the fan to go the same way.
Yep.
And then the rear was different because it was a different
staggered
width.
setup.
Yeah. And I was like, I don't know, what are we doing? Like I couldn't get my head out of out of that space. Anyway, yeah. So I did. That was all I did.
It became readily apparent then that Tesla was a very different animal.
Yeah, it's very different than Honda. Yeah.
So when the S comes out, and it pretty instantly starts getting recognized as this amazing car, wins a bunch of awards, Motor Trend Car of the Year unanimously. Were you guys shocked at that point, or were you just fully expecting that to happen? Like, I'm just kind of curious because you're so in it. I'd love to hear take us back to that time.
Elon was pretty clear with us back then. Like, and he met with us all the time. He would come over from SpaceX. When I started at Tesla, we were in SpaceX, like actually in a corner, like office that was.
Yeah, he told me about that when I had him on here. Yeah,
he would come up there and meet with us, sit at our desks, go over the designs, and it was always really clear, like, make the best car in the world. Period. There was no but the electric,
no asterisk,
no asterisk, no qualifiers, just the best car in the world. And he would, remind us of that constantly. And so we knew that was our goal. Like, and I think, we had a bunch of great engineers that came, from various parts of the auto industry and merged with the guys up here that were, building the Roadster, and it kind of sort of set the Tesla DNA from, way back when. And I think, I don't want to say we were surprised, but I think we were hopeful that we could do that. And when we drove it and like we experienced it, we knew we had something special.
Yeah.
Like we knew, because we had guys who've been in the industry 20, 30 years. My original boss, Hubert Mies, he had done the Ford GT. Like he did some real good cars.
Serious stuff.
Yeah. Like these guys, they weren't slouches. And they were like, this is a great car. This is gonna be a great car. And like, we're hopeful. And the rest is history. I guess we did okay.
Yeah, it turned out all right. Yeah. And really, it had to. I mean, I've talked about on the podcast, my opinion, not that it matters, is that the Model S almost had to be perfect. Otherwise, Tesla would never have survived, right? Because nobody was willing to give electric a chance. You had to kind of force people to pay attention by making the amazing car without an asterisk.
Yeah. That was Elon's point. You had to make it better. Yeah. You had to give people no excuse.
Yeah. So then it's right after the S. Then Elon throws the Model X at you guys right away, the Fabergé egg, which engineering-wise, you're bearing probably the brunt of that. I'm sure there were design challenges too, but
monopost seats and falcon-wing doors.
Do you have nightmares about the Model X?
I have one recurring nightmare about the Model X. So, back then we were picking the door. Elon wanted a special door, and he had all these ideas, but we're trying to come up with what ultimately was the falcon-wing door. And I was, in our 3D modeling program, there were only a handful of people at the company that could do like kinematic movements and design. And so I was like working with the door team, and like we were making all these different mock-ups of like what doors I distinctly remember doing the gull-wing door, and then I was like, I'm gonna hinge it here and just like keep it close to the car. And like I made the first kinematic model that did that.
Yeah.
And like sometimes I'm like, oh man, what? Like I caused so many people so much pain. Just because it's easy to do in CAD to make a model that just like looks like what we ended up with,
right.
But to actually engineer it. And I remember, Alan Clark at the time, he was going through all the different designs. He pops up to what is now the falcon-wing door, and Elon's like, that's it. And we're like, okay. And then we had to go figure out how to make it real. That was probably like October or something. And then we were going to unveil it, I think in January. Showed the board in December. So we only had two months to go make it real.
I mean, but in hindsight, falcon-wing makes perfect sense so I used to have a DeLorean.
Yeah.
But that's a small car. Yeah. So having a gull-wing is fine because it doesn't go up that high. It only goes out 11 inches. But on a full-size SUV,
I mean, that's a big door.
Yeah, you've got a lot.
He had some interesting metrics for us. It was like, I want to be able to stand up inside because his kids were younger back then. Put the kids in the car seat. And I wanted to be able to open in a parking lot, and it was like, so it kind of defaults you into the path of the falcon-wing. That's like the only solution if you have these requirements around.
Since you don't want a sliding door, because that's ugly, right?
Well, but even if you did the sliding door, you couldn't stand up inside.
Right.
So then we had ones where we popped the roof up, but then you'd get wet.
Yeah.
So it was a mess.
Good engineering question for you. This is something that I see come up in the Tesla community every now and again, and I think I know the answer, but I just want to hear it from you, is whatever happened to the Charger Snake?
The Charger Snake, the intern project? We still have it. It's still over there.
Still down there somewhere?
Yeah, but, I think, I think partially what happened was, we didn't really see a need for that, actually, because people can do it on their own. And then, we've gone down a couple of more interesting charging paths that we'll launch shortly. So I think it was just like, it was a cool project, but it was kind of dead in the water from the moment we started it, because like, it's sort of, you talk about Fabergé egg, but it was just like hubris. Like, why? What are we going to do with this?
Cost-wise, right? It would have been
okay on cost, but like for what reason? Like, you're getting out of the car anyway.
Well, but in autonomy and the idea of now it makes more sense.
But I used to ask you a question on autonomy. Why would you have a plug?
If I'm on a road trip, what if I want to go to Disneyland and go to sleep?
Sure, but like, isn't there a different way to charge?
There is. if you have, but then that's another infrastructure issue.
Could be, but we were making some smart plays on that, I think, with the new V4.
So Cybercab will be road trip capable, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, you saw it. We have wireless charging, right? Like, it's coming on Cybercab, and I think that's ultimately, like, if you're going to put a bunch of design effort into something, like, why put this really complex moving device to move a cable when you can have no moving parts and just have the car go
But
charge
I guess
itself?
in a road trip scenario, like Kettleman City is my favorite supercharger until the drive-in diner opens, which I'm sure that'll overtake it. But Kettleman City is awesome. It's this cool lounge. I mean, obviously you've been there. But so are you just going to invest in installing wireless chargers in the parking lots?
I mean, I think that's sort of like the deployment plan that we'll put out there is like, we don't need them all the places.
Right.
But like, a
handful of them?
would make sense. Yeah.
So I could take my Cybercab. I can just play video games or watch movies the entire time.
Sleep.
Yeah, or sleep, and it'll take me overnight to visit my parents in Phoenix.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's
plan.
where it gets, to me, that's almost more interesting than autonomy
when you talk
in the
about
city.
the ubiquitousness of travel that it could offer, it's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it, because like, I go to LA a lot to be with Franz.
Sure.
I called my partner in crime, and I'm happy to call him my friend, and when we're going down to the studio, but it's like, 9 times out of 10, I hop on a plane, and it's like, I'm fortunate that we can, fund that, but like, it's really bad for the carbon footprint.
Yeah.
And, door to door, it still takes like 3.5 hours.
True.
Right? Because you got to get to the airport like an hour and 10 early, and then you got to go from the airport to where you're going. And so, like you talked about going to Disneyland, right? Like, if you think about a family of 4 from the Bay Area that wants to go to Disneyland, they can buy 4 plane tickets. You got to fly to John Wayne. I mean, we're talking about like, I don't know, it's probably like you can buy tickets to Disneyland. Probably like a $5,000 trip.
Oh, easily. Yeah,
right?
for a family of 4 to go. Yeah.
On the other hand, you could take Model X that's autonomous down there from here, and like at a cost of, I don't know, 50 cents a mile or something, $1 a mile. Like, you're talking maybe now you take that $5,000 trip and you turn it into like a $1,500 trip.
Well, you're also selling Model X's with free lifetime supercharging right now. So there you go. That's an incentive.
But, I mean, I'm talking about like, in the autonomous fleet, that's something that I think like really opens up the economy a lot more than we think. Because like people, the people that otherwise have no ability to do those kind of trips might have a greater ability.
What would you say is the most satisfying vehicle project that you've worked on in your long tenure at Tesla?
At Tesla?
Yeah.
That's a tough question. I think Cybertruck, actually.
Yeah?
No one thought we could do that.
Well, is that why? Is it sort of a proving the doubters wrong thing? Or
Yeah. I mean, like,
so there's some pride in there.
Yeah. People
Justifiably.
Justifiably. I appreciate that. Yeah. Like, I get proud of the team on Cybertruck because we had to invent so many things to make that real. And when you look at that prototype next to the production one,
oh, it's like night and day. It's so much more refined.
It's like, it's very refined, but like the style, like we didn't compromise anything.
Yeah.
Like we gave it everything that the original vehicle had and just made it better. And I think, actually, NHTSA just crashed it, and we got 5 stars all around. People said you couldn't do that, right? People said you couldn't bend the stainless steel. People said it wouldn't feel comfortable. People said it like wouldn't have any decent amount of range. Consumption. It's like when you're an engineer and people give you impossible challenges and you solve them. That's like rewarding.
And it's lighter than most of your competitors in the class.
Yeah,
which is sort of a mind
I'm a big
mind.
mass stickler. Like I do not like wasted grams. I give my team a lot of crap for that. Actually, I buy them beers if they come up with good ideas, you know. But it's a few kilos lighter than a F-150 diesel. That makes you feel good.
Yeah. So I was going to ask about Cybertruck later, but since we're just talking about it in the moment, in the last shareholder deck, this last quarter, there was a really fun chart at the very end that said, here's all the cool technologies that we had in Cybertruck, and here's a column that says if we're going to use them in future vehicles.
Yeah, I remember making that.
And the only two that weren't checked were, they were kind of sibling, HFS.
HFS and
then the airbending technique to bend the HFS.
Yeah, at least currently we don't see a future car that's made out of stainless. But like if we did, we could.
Because that's surprising to me only because the whole team really talked up, understandably, in the run-up to Cybertruck. Well, it'll be cheaper to build because we don't have to run it through a paint shop.
Yeah.
There's an environmental benefit from not running it through a paint shop. I thought for sure when the Cybercab would be a little stainless steel car because it'd be super tough. Anybody could beat up on it. So it's just surprising to me that you guys spent so much time and effort developing this alloy.
Yeah. Well,
and don't have any current plans to use it in anything else.
Yeah, I think you have to remember about HFS is like it's really hard to form and bend, right? Like stainless aside, stainless we might be able and might use in the future, but hard freaking stainless, like it's only going to have that cyber shape.
Yeah.
Like, we cannot. It takes a ton of effort.
Curves.
There's no curves.
No curves are coming to that party.
And so, like, when you think about the aerodynamic requirements of something as efficient as Cybercab, like, it didn't marry. But that doesn't to say Cybercab is painted.
Okay, hold on. Well, hold on. It's a gold color that's an homage per France to New York City cabs.
Yep.
If it's not paint, what is it?
Well, we are developing a new process that has been in various industries for a while, where you inject the PU, the polyurethane paint, at the same time that you make the plastic panels. And so there's no paint shop in that vehicle either. It's just we put the color in when we make the panels, and that's it.
That's cool.
No orange peel, no bleed. But then if you want to repair it, because you get scratch or whatever, it's basically paint.
Huh. So can I order my Cybercab in a variety of colors, or?
Well, currently we only plan on the one, but I guess in theory we could inject whatever color you wanted. Yeah.
I like the idea of that.
Anyway, so we took that idea of delete the paint shop and we carried it forward. So we only really coat things that need corrosion protection at this point.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm hoping it works. we've made some big panels.
Well, history says that you guys will do it. It just history says it might not be on the timeline. That's making the impossible merely late.
That's right. That's Elon's line. Making the impossible merely late.
How hellish was production hell on Model 3? Because that's such a famous. Because for me, and I think a lot of my listeners, the Model 3 was our entry into Tesla. Because, speaking for myself, I couldn't afford an S or an X. And the 3 was the car I was waiting for, and obviously the response, you got 400,000 reservations for it, and 100,000 in the first day or something, and it's been a huge success. But there's been a lot made about just because you guys went from low volume automaker to high volume. So as the vice president of engineering, how was the Model 3 period for you?
When you said that, I actually got chills in my body. That's definitely 6-8 months I don't want back from. I don't want to go back there ever again. And I've made a real point with our teams, we can't go back. And our lines have always been better designed and ramped faster since then. But I was living under the brick pretty much, every day, and then walking out to GA4 because building GA4. So yeah, it was rough because it was rough. I don't know how any other way to describe it other than hell, because we were up early, we were there late. I remember one time I was on the corner of the brick working on the auto alignment cell, and I fell asleep because I was just tired.
Yeah.
Elon comes by, hits me upside the head. It's like, what's going on? Everything okay? And I'm like, you know, check out the readings. I'm like, yeah, we're good. And he's like, okay, go back to sleep. Like, okay.
Oh, wow.
But like, that's where, he says he slept, on the line. A lot of us did. And I got, I don't know if my wife's going to listen to this, but I have to thank her heart. She, I had young kids at the time, 3 and 1, and she really stepped up and took care of them. And like, it's hard to be away from them, at that young of an age.
Well, I work in the video game world by day. It's not unlike you're like a game developer that crunched at the end of a project to get it out the door.
I mean, it was
a bigger scale.
6-9 months long. I remember the day I left the factory. We hit 5,000 a week in like July, I think, or June of 2018.
Right, when that was when the variants came in, the all-wheel drive and my performance Model 3.
Yeah. And by the way, we had day jobs too, so we're like spending all the time in the factory, and then we're developing, the performance car on the side. So I'm like, trying to figure out how to balance all this. But I remember we hit 5K, and I was like, okay, I think we can start pulling back. And as every story ends with me, somehow there was a bottle of whiskey involved, and it was like 10 in the morning, and we're all drinking whiskey in the room. So well earned at that point. For Model Y, which obviously you can tell I'm kind of just going a little sequentially here. Just I know I don't have too much time with you. I want to take a little walk through Tesla history because you've been there practically since the jump. Did you guys have any expectation that Model Y would become the literal best-selling car in the world? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We did. We totally did. We were like, when we were building that design, it was like, look, Model 3 is a raging success. But we knew that like SUVs have so much more utility. And a lot of reasons the only people don't buy SUVs is because of their fuel economy. So
right.
What if we gave you a family vehicle that had all the utility, had all the space, and was like the most efficient one you could buy, MPGE or otherwise. And we were like kind of basing the numbers, sort of looking at what Model 3 was selling. And we're like, it was 25% of the sales volume in the sedan class. And we're like, if we do that, doing the math, you're like, oh man, this could be a lot. And of course we weren't super flush with cash. So we kind of, we decided to only build the initial installment at like 5K at Fremont on GA4 and kind of upgraded it to do that.
Yeah.
And, COVID hit. Let's talk about hell ramps.
Right. It's the only new vehicle that you guys never did a launch event for.
Yeah. I mean, and somewhat understandably, like I think the pilot builds were in January. SOP was like March 1st. We were like planning a launch event like on March 30th or something, like after we had like built a few. And I think March 16th is when everything shut down. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, well, how are you going to do a launch? The whole world shut down. And we were, and people would always ask me afterwards, like, oh, when did you go back to the office? I was like, we literally never left. Like, I don't know what to like, it was the best traffic though, because I live over in Oakland, and it was awesome because it was like 20-minute drive to Fremont every day.
Yeah, back when, that's right, there was no traffic.
We had this like note that you had to carry with you because, you weren't supposed to be driving on the public roads during the original lockdown. It's like, I'm an essential worker. It was kind of interesting.
So we get to, I got to ask you, 2017, I got to bring up the next-gen Roadster for a second.
Yeah. Oh man, it's been that long.
So first of all, 2017. It is listed on your LinkedIn as something you worked on. So I know I'm not talking out of school here, but that thing surprised the heck out of everybody when it came off the back of that Tesla Semi prototype at the Tesla Semi reveal.
Yeah. Almost didn't make it off the back.
Well, I want to hear that, but I've heard that very, very, like an insanely few people knew about it, had access to it. I heard it was built in like a secret spot or behind like black curtains. And
all the stories are true.
All the stories are true. So it was like the ultimate skunkworks project at Tesla.
Yeah, it was. Actually, I wasn't even on the project initially. Doug had my job at the time, Doug Field, and he had selected because most of us were, in the factory.
Yeah.
And like we're trying to do all these things at once, so he's trying to like isolate the team that was going to work on this. It's like 20 or 30 people, and I don't remember exactly how this went down, but we were in a staff meeting, And after the staff meeting, he kind of tapped me on the shoulder. And he's like, Lars, like we all knew it was happening, like that we're on a staff, but some of us weren't working on it. He's like, I think you're going to have to do this. Like, we're not making progress. I need you to come down and like get the chassis done. I'm like, oh, great.
Add another pile. Add it to the pile.
Mess. And, like I never say no to any challenge. And so like took a couple of my guys only and I basically said, you're going to live in LA, and we're going to get this done. And like,
you live at the design studio at that point, right?
Well, in the building that had the black curtains.
Yeah.
It's a little bit away from the design studio.
Yeah.
Clay was in there. We had the engineers in there. It was like old school days. It was great. And it was fun.
So when Elon posted about a year ago about the goals for the new Roadster being significantly increased, if I'm remembering that correctly, what did that mean in engineering terms?
Well, I think it was in this room, actually. Drew and I were just meeting with him to give him a quick update on the tech we were working on.
Yeah.
And I would say that like what we have come up with exceeded what we originally planned. And so Elon was like, wow, great. Let's do more. Like, you guys can do this already? And then like he kind of pushed us to kind of go a little step further. And so we've already engineered a bunch of cool, really bespoke stuff for it. And we realized we could do better than we thought we could. So we just raised the bar. Like you never want to settle, right? Like as an engineer, I think a lot of people set a target and they hit a target and they feel good about it.
Good, yeah.
And like for us, it's like, no, just keep going. Like unless, Sir Isaac Newton says it's not possible, we're gonna try to do it.
Well, how does the SpaceX package play into that?
That was a fun one. There are
a lot of people that don't believe that's real, just like
it's definitely real.
They did not believe that the Cybertruck would be real.
Yeah, I mean, I think...
Has it been tested?
I can neither confirm nor deny that we are testing it. But yeah, like we're working with SpaceX on that now. Mark Jankosa down there has got a great team that, we obviously collaborate occasionally and my guys and his guys are trying to figure out how to fit that in a car, But cold gas thrusters are super cool, and they add a certain level of sort of breaking the laws of motor physics, let's say, and giving us like another tool in the toolbox.
Can you look me in the eye right now and tell me that car is going to come out?
Yeah, I promise you it will come out.
Are you working on it presently?
Yes.
When was the last time you did something? No, when was the last time you worked on it? Like had a meeting about it or?
Tuesday.
Okay. And we are sitting here on Thursday. Yeah. All right. So 2 days ago, there was Roadster progress made of some kind.
Yeah.
This is reassuring.
Yeah. Yesterday, one of the guys on the team came up to me and, asked me a question about it, but that was...
Because you can understand the frustration.
Oh, yeah. It's been almost a decade.
And believe me, I understand how it's not the most important thing. I get it.
I mean,
this company has huge goals, but there comes a point where it's either let's get this Roadster out or cancel.
Just let it go, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think ultimately, I think you said it right. Like, we've just had a lot of goals, and, it's the cherry on top of the...
Right,
because the frosting on top of the ice cream.
Because you guys can walk and chew gum at the same time now. You're flush with cash. You've got a ton of talent.
I don't think I can.
I think you can.
I mean, I think we got a lot of things, a lot of irons in the fire still. But we've kept our roots in terms of like small team and being scrappy, and I think right now is just the right time, given where SX3Y Cybertruck. And the robotaxi are like and semi coming along too. That was also the same time, by the way.
Yep.
You don't want to talk about like undelivered promises, like Pepsi's got.
But that one's a lot more important to the business, admittedly.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's a whole other industry.
In the mission, right? Like, talk about CO2 and what the semi can do for it. Like, I think that's another one that we just have to either get done or not. And now the factory's closed up. We've got our pilot fleet's out with us, with Pepsi, with Saya, with a few others, and like that one's super super close as well.
But you're looking me in the eye. You're telling me the new Roadster's real.
I promise you.
It will come out.
Yeah, promise.
But the next, by the time we get to the 20th anniversary of the original Roadster, which would be 2028.
Yeah, we could do that.
Okay. I mean, even that's still a ways away. I'm trying to give you.
That goes good buffer. I appreciate it.
All right. I know I'm running out of time with you. I got to talk about the new Model Y.
Yeah.
Which you were kind enough before we even mic'd up. You're like, want to go drive it? Like, what am I going to say no? Yeah. I'm like the first guy other than Jay Leno in the public to get to go drive it, and it's exactly as I expected it to be, being an owner of a brand new Model 3, the new Performance 3. It takes all those same upgrades, and you and I were talking, you're leaning a little more into the comfort side rather than the performance side, which makes perfect sense. And it's such a massive upgrade. If you drive the original Y and you drive this one, it's pretty night and day, even in my opinion. I mean, if you were already interested in the old Y, you're not going to be turned away by the new Y, certainly.
Yeah, it's a great car.
And so, what did you learn from redesigning the 3 that sort of fed into the thinking and into the thought process on the Y?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely carried some technologies from the 3 to the Y, and I think, one of the things that we learned that is like most critical, and it doesn't have really to do with design. It has to do with like changing over our factories. So we have never, until the Model 3, update, really changed over a high volume line. Of course, we did S and X, but
sure. And those lines, that was GA1 shut down for months for that.
Yeah, and going to say we didn't do a great job on that, like on the changeover for when Plaid came out. And so we learned from that. We did a lot better on Model 3, but we had to stagger, in Shanghai and in Fremont. And, we were still bridging parts. It's like there's a lot of supply chain logistics to do. And I think for Y, we learned a lot from 3 so that we are now able, as you know from all the announcements, to really change over all the factories at one time, which is sort of daunting because it's, we were just saying the 1.2 million last year. Give me another automobile that sold 1.2 million units and changed over in like a week.
In 4 factories.
In 4 factories.
I mean, the 3 was 2, the S and X was 1, so you guys are making it harder.
You got to go back to I think Henry Ford, what was it, 1922 or 24, they stopped making the Model T and went to the Model A. And they had 6 factories globally, and they took 6 months. And back then, cars were not nearly as complex as they are now, but they shut down all the factories for 6 months to go from T to A. So I think that's the biggest thing we learned how to do. And we're right in the thick in the middle of it. I'm going to Germany next week, as we were talking, and I think we're going to be okay. That's going to be a great achievement if we can get that done and we ramp back up real fast.
I mean, they're filling the outbound lots in Texas and over here. It seems like it might be earlier March than later March. You guys just said March, which is fair, right? You don't want to paint yourselves into a corner.
Thumbnail there.
So what's the balance between pushing the envelope, engineering-wise, and playing it safer when you're dealing with the company's big moneymaker and the best-selling car in the world?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we've, engineers are optimists at best. We believe in the impossible and we try and make it real. I have this coffee cup that says engineers making things possible that you never thought were real. I'm yeah, that's what we do. But in that optimism, I think you can get a little lost with hope. And the real measure of success on this one was bring all the issues up front, tell us the reality, don't sugarcoat it, don't hold it back, because for us to do this, we all have to know what's happening, and whether that was at the factory or with the design or with the supply chain. And I think that level of honesty is what has allowed us to succeed in the timeline. And I don't really think there was ever a trade-off of how far are we going to go with this, or how much are we going to push. It was let's just all be honest, and as long as we're honest with each other, we'll figure it out. And to be honest, we've had to move that timeline a few times because of that honesty. think originally we wanted to launch late last year, and like, you know, we're going to be in March. So, you know, 3 month, you know, to your point earlier, like, it's always just a little late, but no one knew that, right? So like we were able to maintain that internally before we, you know.
Although, I mean, Q4 is always your biggest quarter.
Yeah.
I don't know if you'd have wanted to introduce
It might have been a bad time, but like, you know, it was the plan. That was all I'm saying. And I think that would be, you know, we made good adjustments along the way to get it out.
So for me, somebody who's an armchair analyst at best, somebody that's just studied this company up close for the last 10 years doing this podcast, I kind of wondered aloud on here. I said, well, I could see the case for why maybe Tesla will do steer-by-wire on the Y, because you could leverage the volume to get your cost down with your supplier and push simplicity and another, you know, fewer moving parts. But I wonder, it's not in there clearly, but not that the car doesn't drive perfectly great, it does, but is it a cost issue, which is is it still too expensive of a technology?
No, like the cost of steer-by-wire is like at a fundamental level, like should be cheaper than mechanical steering, right? Because there's like, once you take the wheel out, right, like there's no need for half the components. But no, I think that really is just like a supply risk management thing. You know, we make, you know, 25,000-ish steering racks a week, and you got to pick and choose what you want to change, and it's a pretty complex part with a lot of safety critical stuff, and it's already redundant and like autopilot capable. So like, just kind of, you can take the wheel off theoretically and still work. So we just didn't want to your point earlier, I guess you just asked like, how do you draw the line on risk versus innovation? We just decided that like, let's not risk the supply chain on this one. It's a big one. But we, you know, to that said, we do have like brake-by-wire on the new Model Y. It's a isolated brake pedal, so it has a hydraulic backup, like with a separate circuit that runs through. But when you're actuating the brake, it's actually sending electrical signal to the booster and to the ABS unit to distribute the brake power, which gives us a lot more efficiency. But that's like one step towards mass manufacture of like, you know, deleting the brake pedal completely. Yeah. And I think, you know, it's like in the true sense, it's not full brake-by-wire because of the hydraulic, you know, pass-through that we have. But I think from a chassis standpoint, that was a big enough, you know, step towards the by-wire world that we didn't really want to put both at the same time.
Well, I have to politely ask you here, as someone very high up in a company that literally sent an instruction manual to other manufacturers about how to do a 48-volt system. Why not do a 48-volt system on your highest volume car?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think we will in time. It's like, it's not a, you know, that we created the 48-volt supply chain for automotive with Cybertruck.
Yeah.
And some of the components, you know, carry back and will go into our other systems. But like, again, when you're talking about that many units a week, it's a lot of supply chain to bring up, even in terms of just like, you know, the power electronics needed to run 48 volts. And so, you know, we are beholden at some rate to our supply base's capabilities. And like, we can bring them along kicking and screaming so fast. But, you know, we will get all our cars to 48 volts. You know, Cybercab's 48 volts, Cybertruck's 48 volts. I think we're trying to manage that supply chain and bring
Roadster must be, right? Because that's steer-by-wire too.
Yeah, bring the whole world with us at the same time, you know.
Well, that brings me to S and X. Mm-hmm. So I am of the opinion, I think the Model S is probably still the best overall car in the world in terms of price, performance, range, safety, utility, you name it. The Plaid specifically, I mean, for under $100,000, you've got a rocket ship at your fingertips. But the S and X there's a yoke option, but still no 48 volt there. Mm-hmm. We don't even have nice, fun accent lighting in the interior of S and X. So is anything coming up for S and X?
Just give it a minute. We'll get there.
All right. I know you did refresh them 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I guess coming up on 4.
Coming up on 4, yeah.
So, but it kind of feels like with how big a step the 3 has taken, and with its new generation and the Y, that it's time. On S&X.
I mean, we definitely, that was like, I think, you know, the upgrade a couple years ago was bigger than most people thought, you know, in terms of architecture and structure, and the car got a lot better too. But we'll give it some love, you know, later this year and make sure it gets a little bit of the stuff we've been putting in 3 and Y. Obviously, with 3 and Y, the higher volume stuff, you got to focus there.
Sure.
Make sure you're staying competitive and getting it out there. But everyone here got a little place in our heart for SNX.
So they're not going anywhere.
No, not anytime soon.
Because I did have this sort of dark thought as somebody again that studies this stuff is knowing you guys are trying to push as many EVs into the world as possible and accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. I could see with SNX sales being such a fraction of 3 and Y, I could see you taking that GA1 line in Fremont and building something higher volume on it. But SNX are going to stick around? I mean,
as Elon says, there's like some nostalgia to them and like keeping them around, and like we don't have any immediate plans to change that. And we just gotta, they're also really great vehicles when you consider autonomy. You're talking about like taking a road trip to Disneyland. Like I'd rather take an X than a Cybercab. Actually, it's like really comfortable vehicle, bigger space. You know? And so like I think there's some places for that, especially when we think about that world. So we love those cars. Keep them around. Actually just drove X yesterday home, and it's like, man, this is great.
What are you daily driving?
So it's like somebody asked me that the other day, and I think like I haven't had my car in like a week and a half. Like I've just been driving engineering cars all the time.
Well, what is your car?
But the car that I like to drive the most is very similar to your 2018 Model 3 Performance. I still love that car.
You haven't swapped it for a 2024?
I mean, I will.
You will.
But
you can come drive mine if you want to check it out.
Test drive?
If you're interested, yeah. I mean, you did offer me a Model Y test drive, so it's only fair.
No, I mean, but I love that car. There's a lot of purity to it, and I drive that most of the time. But, like when I'm driving my own car. But a lot of the times I'll take home engineering cars, so I don't even, people always who live near me, they're like, they shake their head. I come home with a different car every other night,
All right, I know I've only got a couple minutes with you here.
Sure, yeah.
Nerdy, I guess I'm not an engineer, but I'm curious to ask the engineer at Tesla, why didn't you use gigacastings for the new Model 3? Because that seems like a thing that you guys would do.
Yeah, we could have done that. I think really in terms of at the time, we did not have any additional machines to be able to dedicate to Model 3.
That makes sense. If Y is
getting
them all.
Y was getting them all. We were still ramping Y and putting more in Berlin and Austin, and then we were making the new big ones for Cybertruck at the same time, and we're between Idra and all of our suppliers, it was we just couldn't get any. So okay, just won't touch it. We'll come back to that one in a minute.
Fair enough.
And I think now maybe we have enough to do that, but it was just we didn't. Sometimes you're limited by things you don't want to be limited by.
That's fair. What is your favorite piece of engineering on any of the cars?
Oh God, don't. It's like asking your dad which one of your kids is a favorite, right? Across all of the great things that our teams have done, I think one of the coolest pieces of engineering in the moment was the original heat pump.
When
we
the octo valve?
Not the octo valve, the whole system.
Okay.
And because, between Prem, who did the octo valve, and Jack, who did the super manifold, and then Nick, who kind of transformed how to use a heat pump compressor. It's still on the market. I believe it's the only one that uses the compressor as a heating loop within the system. It just broke the rules of how HVAC had been done and how refrigerant systems worked, and it really was able to give us so much benefit for so little cost and so much simplicity. And that kind of hit the sweet spot for me in terms of what Tesla does well. We made it easier to manufacture, super innovative system. The only way it works is with massive amounts of engineering controls that have to be integrated into the system. And I remember that. So I took this job almost 6 years ago. I've been VP after a bunch of people kind of settled out after the Model 3. And I remember I was sitting down with Joe Mardall, who was head of thermal at the time. He was telling me about the heat pump system, and he was not planning it for launch. And I was because he was hesitant because it was all new.
Yeah.
I was Joe, we're putting it in the car. And he was but we're not going to be ready. I'm you'll be ready. got to do it. And we never launched a Model Y without it. And I think, those are the tough decisions you have to make as a leader. But that team, the guys I mentioned, shout out to all those guys. They did a phenomenal job, and they're still here, and for the most part. And I think as a leader, I really enjoyed that because I was able to, make an impact.
Two super quick ones, because otherwise my audience will kill me if I don't ask these.
Sure.
Front bumper camera, it's on the Y. Is it going to come to the other cars?
Plead the fifth.
Oh, I guess you're allowed to do that. Same question, turn signal stalk. Will that, now it's been carried over to the Y? What?
There's certain vehicles don't need it. Cybertruck doesn't need it. Like that one I think is just sort of vehicle dependent.
That's fair. And then can I try to pry you for maybe like a little innocent factoid about the affordable cars that you're building? Give me some little like engineering something for these cars coming up in, by the way, it's mid-February. We're expecting them in like 4 months-ish.
Yeah. What's a good little factoid?
Something that won't get you fired or in trouble, but...
Yeah. I think the most kind of difficult part of doing that is like not making the cars worse. And so I promise that there won't be a massive step down from the cars we sell today.
That's a great answer.
Yeah.
And that's all the time we have.
Yeah, my phone's
Lars
blowing
Moravy,
up.
VP of Engineering at Tesla. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Ryan. I really enjoyed it.
Lightning.
I hope you have a great podcast tomorrow. And, I'm going to be out in the trenches ramping Model Y for the next few weeks, so I'm glad we fit it in.
Love it. Thank you.
Hi, this is Franz von Holzhausen, and you're listening to Ride the Lightning with Ryan McCaffrey, the Tesla unofficial podcast.
I want to say a couple things after that. First of all, massive thank you to Lars for being so generous with his time and just letting me pick his brain about the past, present, and future of Tesla. It is genuinely a thrill, and I fully recognize it is a privilege for me to get to do that, and I absolutely do not take that for granted. I'm so grateful for the opportunity that Lars so kindly afforded me there. I hope you enjoyed that interview, because when I left the building, I floated back to my car in the parking lot, because I was so happy that I just felt like the conversation went really well, and I hope you enjoyed it. So I also, by the way, want to give a huge thanks to longtime Ride the Lightning listener Matt Para for being a huge help in getting that interview to sound as good as it possibly could after the fact. You will never hear what this interview originally sounded like, but let's just say I'm no audio engineer, okay? Matt is, and I reached out, and I just cannot thank him enough for his help in cleaning up the audio in that interview to get it sounding as good as possible for when it actually went out on the air. Now, as I promised, and by the way, if you're hearing either at the very beginning or now, if you're hearing some snoring going on, that would be Daisy the Boxer. Longtime listeners know who that is, but that's my 7-year-old boxer who is adorable, and she snores a lot because she's a boxer. So if that's coming through and you're wondering what is that in the background, that's what it is. So driving the new Model Y, I did not expect this at all. So Lars had agreed to the interview, and then when I get there, he's like, as I said at the top, he said, "Do you want to go for a drive?" And I had seen, what's funny is I had seen there was one new Model Y, Quicksilver Model Y, sitting in the parking lot, and I looked at it and went, "Oh, that's cool. It's, pretty soon those are going to be everywhere, but oh, neat. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense that I'm here at the Tesla engineering headquarters, and there's one sitting in the parking lot." I mean, there were Cybertrucks, there were all forms of Tesla were in that parking lot. And so when I walked in and Lars said, "Hey, you want to go for a drive? I want to take the new Model Y out," and that's just like, wow. Yes is the short answer. Of course I do. So I have to say, I think the best way to break this down is if you have driven the new Model 3, as I am very fortunate to have just taken delivery of a new Model 3 Performance 2 months ago, then you're going to be right at home. It's going to be very familiar. Now, I talked to Lars as we were driving, of course. We were talking the entire time, just off, kind of, not off the record, but off mic. And we were talking about kind of the difference between 3 and Y, and he basically said, yeah, with the 3, the new 3, that we wanted to kind of lean more on the performance side of things a little bit, whereas with the new Y, they wanted to lean more into the comfort and luxury side of it. So the suspension, that seems to be the number one thing that people want to see improved more than anything else, is the ride quality, the suspension. And I can definitely tell you that it rides really well. The one I was driving was on the 20-inch Helix 2.0 wheels. So theoretically, it would ride even ever so slightly better on the 19-inch cross-flow wheels, because you'd have just more sidewall, more tire cushion to play with. But it really does ride noticeably better. And that's where I want to kind of differentiate the two camps. If you've driven a new Model 3, you're going to be not surprised by what's in the new Model Y. But that's not a criticism. That's a good thing. The new Model 3 is just so much better. It's super quiet inside. The materials really are just nicer to the touch, but it just drives really nicely now for what I presume is going to be within $1,000 or $2 the same price. So it's if you have or have driven the legacy, if you will, Model Y, and then you jump in the new one for basically the same price, it's going to be an absolutely incredible step forward. You're going to be like, whoa. So I actually think a lot of Model Y owners are going to want to upgrade. Now, if you bought one last year, are you going to want to upgrade? Probably, most of you probably are not. But if you've got a 2020 or a 2021 Model Y, I think you're going to be sorely tempted if in fact you've been enjoying. Like if you like that Model Y, which the statistics say that most people do. It's the number one selling car in the world. But the new one, you know, it's new seats, it's a new steering wheel. Now, what's funny for me on the steering wheel front, so I'm out driving it, and I went to signal. I went to make a left turn signal. I got into a left turn lane, and I went and pushed. I can't remember which button it was. If it was it's the headlight button, or I don't think it was the windshield. I don't think I set the wipers off. It must have been the headlight button, because now I'm used to the new Model 3 and having the turn signal buttons on the steering wheel. But it's like, oh no, wait, that's right. The new Model Y has the turn signal stalk again, and it's the stalk definitely. It feels different. It actually felt lighter in I wouldn't say not good or bad way, just a different way. It has a different feel to it when you press it than the stalks do on my 2018 Model 3, and those are the same stalks that are on every Model Y up until the new ones. So good to see the turn signal stalk come back. That'll make a lot of people happy. But, you know, the steering wheel's different. The seat is different, and I would argue it's an improved seat. I liked the seats in the old 3 and Y. I still do. When I jump back and forth between my old Model 3 and my new Model 3, I don't curse the old one when I get in it. It's still comfortable. But the new one's definitely nicer, and it really does ride so much better than the old Model Y. That's the thing that I think more than anything else that I want to convey more to you more than anything, because you know, you can look at the pictures and you can see, you know the different features it's got, like the power folding second row seats. They can go up or down automatically from the touch of a button that's either on the screen or back near the rear lift gate. But yeah, it is, and certainly the fit and finish is way better. Now, I would argue that in the last few years, the fit and finish has gotten pretty dialed in on the legacy Model Y, but the new ones are super tight from everything I've seen so far, which granted I admit is only a few of them in the wild and only a couple of them up close, including this one. But it's really just a nice, it's a obvious upgrade, right? It's in terms of all the things you care about. Now, the styling is subjective, right? You may not like the styling, front or rear. As I've said on this podcast, when it first was unveiled out of Tesla China in Shanghai, I didn't care for the look of it at first. In person, I like it more. I still would say I don't love it, but there aren't a lot of SUVs that I do love the look of. Like, I'm a sports car guy. I have the sedans. I like the sedans because they're sportier. Does the new Y look better in person than the old one? It definitely looks newer, and that's not just because I see the legacy Model Y everywhere, but it does look more like if you had them side by side and you said, if you had a 2024 Y next to a 2025 Y, and you said, and you had somebody that had never seen either of these cars before, and you said, well, can you pick out which one's the 2025 and which one's the 2024? I think pretty much 9 out of 10 people, maybe 10 out of 10 people, are going to choose the Juniper. They're going to choose the new one they're going to correctly identify it as the new car. But in person, it's very clean. The light bar up front is nice. The light bar in back, I didn't really spend a lot of time back there. We just kind of jumped in the car and went. So, I mean, I'd had a chance to see the light bar in action indoors at the Tesla showroom a couple podcasts ago. I guess that was two shows ago, where I went and got to check that out. But it's definitely, from the side, just like the new Model 3, from the side it looks extremely similar to the outgoing Model Y, but it's really inside is where it's at. And boy, the interior and the ride quality have just been massively improved. And I do think that Tesla's probably going to sell. They're going to have quite a demand for these because it is so much better of a car than the already number one selling car in the world that it's replacing. So, again, assuming the price is about the same, which, based on the launch series price, it should be right about the same price. All right. Before I go, I've got a few more things for you. First, certainly this week, the star of the show was Lars and the interview with Lars, but typically I have a hotline section of the podcast where you can call in and ask questions and bring up discussion topics as they pertain to the world of Tesla. And I will get back to that very soon. So if you've got a question, comment, or discussion topic for the podcast, maybe you want to react to something that you heard Lars say, feel free to call in. There are 2 easy ways to do that. Either use your smartphone's built-in voice memo software, record your question, and then email that file to me at my Tesla Podcast email address, which is teslapodcast@gmail.com. Or you can take that same question, and by the way, whichever method you decide to submit your question, please try to keep it to 90 seconds or less. That way I can get to as many callers on each podcast as possible. So you can also just call in and leave a message on the Ride the Lightning hotline. It's a toll-free number you can call anytime, and the number is 1-888-989-8752. That number, again, is 1-888-989-TSLA. This is also typically the part of the podcast where I give you an entertainment recommendation, something I'm reading, watching, listening to, or playing on the video game side, because I work in video games by day. And I do, in fact, have a video game recommendation for you this week. It's a new game. It's available for Xbox and PC. It's on Game Pass on PC or Xbox if you happen to subscribe to that service. And the game is Avowed. It is a new fantasy role-playing game, first person, although you can switch to third person if you want. And it's from the makers of Fallout New Vegas. That's a pretty classic game at this point. But Avowed, it is, I would say, very, very simplified. I think it does a pretty decent job of scratching the Skyrim itch. If you've been missing a new Elder Scrolls game since Skyrim came out in 2011, and the Elder Scrolls 6 won't be out for probably another 3 to 5 years, well, Avowed is a first-person fantasy role-playing game that's quite good. I'm really enjoying it so far. I've got a long way to go, but if you need a new game to play, I do recommend Avowed. Next up, turning back to Tesla, how about a pro tip of the week? I air one of these every single podcast, and you guys submit them. It's awesome. It's a community source thing where we all find little Easter eggs or shortcuts or workarounds for things that hopefully make our Tesla experiences better. And this week's Tesla Pro Tip of the Week comes from Matthew in Portland, Oregon.
Hey, Ryan, this is Matthew from the Portland, Oregon area. Thanks for your great podcast, and also thanks for your great work for IGN. I have a pro tip of the week for you and your listeners. So in addition to being able to activate the windshield wipers and then use the scroll wheel to toggle through the settings, I accidentally found out that you can also, if you don't want to look at the middle screen, you can actually just keep pressing the windshield wiper button. It'll toggle through settings 1 through 4. It won't go into auto or off, but if you just want to stay within the 4 settings, it'll do that without having to look at the screen and use the scroll wheel. And I found that if you keep pressing it, it'll go up and then back down. If you wait a while, it'll automatically go up unless you're already on 4, and then it'll go down. So hopefully that's helpful to you and your listeners. Also, so glad to hear that you were able to end up with a positive resolution to a very frustrating and stressful situation with your car and its tires. All right, thanks. Bye.
Matthew, thank you. This is a great pro tip, especially if it's raining really hard and you want to keep 100% of your focus on the road. I didn't know this one, so I will be putting this to use the next time a storm passes through my area, which could be any time since we are in our rainy season here in the San Francisco Bay Area. So again, thank you. And by the way, yes, I am praying to the tire gods that my tire troubles are now behind me. I appreciate your call, Matthew. And by the way, if anybody else out there has a good Tesla Pro Tip of the Week that you'd like to share with me and your fellow Tesla owners and enthusiasts, please send it in. And the way to do that is just using either of the same 2 methods that you send in a regular Ride the Lightning hotline call, which I told you about just a few minutes ago. Before I go, I want to mention some friends of Ride the Lightning that can perhaps be of use to you. Maybe sooner, maybe later, but keep them in the back of your mind here. I'll start with abstractocean.com. They sell a million different awesome aftermarket Tesla accessories, a lot of different lighting kits for inside the car, outside the car in various colors. They have the very popular tempered glass custom fit screen protectors for the car as well that are made with the same stuff that Corning uses for Gorilla Glass. So that's a great product as well. My advice is to just go to abstractocean.com, click on whichever Tesla you have, and then it will show you all of the different accessories that they have available for your car. Pile everything you like into your online shopping cart, and when you get to checkout, use the coupon code RTLPodcast to get 15% off of your first order. That coupon code again is RTLPodcast, all one word, no spaces, at abstractocean.com. Next, the Snap Plate and the newer, stronger Snap Plate Plus, available for S3, XY, and Cybertruck. You can get yours at everyamp.com/RTL, and don't forget to add the coupon code RTL to that as well for a nice discount. The Snap Plate, if you're not familiar, is a minimalist front license plate bracket that can snap on and off in seconds, but when it's on there securely. But if you want to take it off, maybe because you're detailing the car, maybe because you're doing a little Cars and Coffee car show, you don't want it on there, it can come off easily and will leave no unsightly hardware behind. So the Snap Plate is safety optimized with breakaway features to sacrifice itself in a worst case scenario, like a parking accident or car wash. Snap Plate Plus is strength optimized with hardened features for maximum strength, and both are made from recycled, made in the USA plastics with stainless steel reinforcements. So again, get yours at everyamp.com/RTL, and don't forget the coupon code RTL. Immaculate Reflections is an awesome professional car detailer located here in the greater San Francisco Bay Area. That is where I bring my car. That's where both of my Teslas have spent time, and they look amazing as a result. I guarantee you, if you bring your car to Immaculate Reflections, you will leave happy when the car is done. That is an actual promise. That is how talented that Jeff, the owner at Immaculate Reflections, is. I've been enjoying the heck out of my new Model 3 Performance. It just looks fantastic. Whether you want to do paint correction to really perfect that finish, maybe you want to do paint protection film on the front of the car or a bunch of key areas or even all of the car. Maybe you want to do ceramic coating because you don't really want to have to wax the car twice a year to try and keep the finish good. No, it's ceramic coating is basically like a 21st century car wax that lasts 3 to 5 years or more. Whatever you want to do, go to irdetailing.com and you'll find a contact form on there. And when you submit that, just make sure to mention that you're a Ride the Lightning listener, and any detailing services that you have done, you will have the Ride the Lightning listener discount applied. Before I go, I do also want to mention my Patreon page. So this podcast has been going for nearly 10 years now. Obviously, I'm on the cusp of 500 episodes, and it's always been free. And to be clear, it always will be free. But it does take a good chunk of my time. I had to take time outside of my day job, actually, to go do this Lars interview, which I'm not complaining. I love doing this podcast. I wouldn't have kept it going for almost 10 years and 500 episodes if I didn't love doing it. But the point is here, if you see it in your heart, if you'd like to support what I'm doing, there are some perks to doing so if you join my Patreon. So go to patreon.com/Tesla podcast, and you'll see a bunch of different support tiers there. The tiers start at just $5 a month. You can be supporting what I'm doing here, and I'd be so humbled and grateful if you chose to support me on Patreon. For $5 a month, you'll get early access to each week's show, and you'll get an ad-free version of the show as well. If you step up to the $10 per month tier, you'll get ad-free and early access, but then you'll also get each week's new Lightning Round mini episode. These are little bonus episodes I do each week for Patreon at the $10 tier and higher that are on a variety of usually pretty Tesla-centric but always EV-centric topics. There are over 130 of those. So if you join that $10 tier today, you have access to all of that, plus each one I do every week. So check out everything about the Patreon on that Patreon page, which again is located at patreon.com/Tesla podcast. If you're not already following this podcast on your favorite podcast service or podcast feed, I do encourage you to do that. It's totally free, and it just means that every time there's a new episode, you will get a push notification on your device that reminds you that there's a new episode of Ride the Lightning. New episodes, by the way, drop every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific. But why rely on me to remind you when you could have your device automatically push it out to you? So you can follow me on Apple Podcasts, on TuneIn, Spotify, YouTube podcasts, etc. And the way to find me is just type in Ride the Lightning Tesla Podcast. You should find me no problem, and then just click that follow button. A reminder that the referral program continues. You can get between $500 and $2,500 off the purchase of a new Tesla by purchasing with someone's referral link. If you'd like to use mine, no pressure, but if you'd like to use mine, I certainly will welcome you to do that. The thing to do is type this short link into any browser, either on your desktop or mobile device. Type in ts.la/Ryan73014. This link will also be in the episode description if that's easier for you. That'll take you to a landing page on Tesla.com, and from there you can choose whichever Tesla you want, configure it however you want, and you'll see as you're configuring it, you'll see the referral discount baked in on the screen there. So it's $500 off a Legacy Model Y. It's $1,000 off of a Model S, Model X, or Cybertruck, and it is $2,500 off of a new Model 3. So check that out make sure you're ordering with someone's referral link if you are a first-time Tesla buyer. If you're already a Tesla owner, just order on your same account and you'll get that discount as a loyalty bonus. So basically you're referring yourself. And anything else here? You can follow me on social media if you like. I'm on X as well as Instagram. My username is the same on both, and that username is DMC_Ryan. And you can email me anytime, teslapodcast@gmail.com. Finally this week, I want to say hello and thank you to the top tier Patreon backers. These are the extra generous folks that I am so grateful for their generosity. I'll start with the top tier, the Roadster in Space tier. Big thanks to Pete White, Lyle Austin, Steve Radspinner, Fernando Cordero, Lawton from Chicago, Sean Neidig, Neil Weaver, Jackson Wallace, Rolf and Jennifer Evers, Howard Anthony Smith, Victoria Iacovetto, Tesla Hitchhiker 42, Kara Weston, Robert from near Philly, American Home Contractors, GetAmber.com, Doug Carey, Rav, Michael Gallo, and Tony Figueroa. Next up, a big thank you to the Maximum Plaid tier backers. They are Jonathan Wales, Cameron Clark, Daniel Grummer, Seth Capello, Nick and Tony, the Galpin family, Ryan from New York City, Darren Nickel, Kaz Barnes, Brett Libano, Patrick Wisniewski, Gil Cabrera, Todd Badger, Joe Edgel, Kevin Yank, the Tesla Owners Club of San Joaquin Valley, Will Stedman, Justin Perez, Jeremy Harris, Chris Beach, Tom Mills, Corey O'Donnell, Aaron, John Cody, Joel Sapp, Paul Casarino, Richard Corley, Chris Osborne, KB, Adam Lavoie, Jason Chalukas, Travis Krenzel, Bruce Otterstein, Tom Behan, Josh Pennington, John from Cream Ridge, New Jersey, Dustin Hart, Derek Finley, Charles Clement, Adam Christie, Damon Klein, Jeff Brown, Jerry Slinger, Clayton Goodfellow, Michael Mizrahi, Kenneth Corbett, and Brian Bertoglio. And finally, I can't forget the Plaid level supporters. This tier has been officially retired, but these very kind and generous folks continue to support me at that tier, so they'll get all the perks and bonuses that they should get, including this weekly shout out at the end of the show. Big thank you to George Cassiopo, Logan Willis, Peter Chalet, Eric Randolph, Dory and Steve Guberman, the Tesla Owners Club of Taiwan, Ron Lee, Charlie Gillespie, Jeff Angwin, Chase Cabanillas, the Lydia family, Aaron Altschul, Jared Brown, Jerome Strack, Jamie Dalton, Mike and Barbara from Louisville, Matt Nixon, the Tesla Owners Club of Wisconsin, Ish, not Elon Musk in quotes, Peter, and the Bear Boys of Colorado. And that brings us to the end of a very special Ride the Lightning episode 499. Again, so grateful to Lars for taking the time and really putting his trust in me a little bit too. You know, he didn't know me before this. I could have bombarded him with a bunch of weird questions, but now he was trusting, and I tried to live up to that trust, and I enjoyed the heck out of that conversation with him. I hope you did too. Again, huge privilege for me. I'm so happy and grateful to get to share that with you as well. But not done. If I'm not going to say what's going to happen next week, and the reason I'm not going to say is because until it's in the can and it's recorded, it hasn't happened. That's because things change, schedules can change. But episode 5, let's put it this way. There was a reason that this was episode 499, because Lars is 500 worthy. Let's be clear. Lars would have made an amazing episode 500. But episode 500, there is something that I'm hoping to bring you. But if it doesn't happen, just refer back to this and you'll know why. It'll be because schedules changed or something happened. But hopefully next week will be really fun too. So with that, another shout out to Matt Para for the audio assist this week. Thank you so much, Matt. You don't know how much your technical expertise on the audio front means to me. in helping this podcast sound as good as it can with regard to that Lars interview. So thank you, Matt. Thank you, Lars. Thank you to all of you listening. Thanks for taking the time to hang out and listen to a nice Tesla conversation with the vice president of engineering at the company who's been there a long, long time. And so with that, I bid you farewell until episode 500 next week.
Elon Musk, people don't like Elon Musk. The guy founded PayPal and Tesla, and people are like, yeah, but he's a troll and a bad dad. I'm like, so was mine. He did nothing to fight climate change. Also, have you been in a Tesla? Have you been in a Tesla? My buddy let me drive his Tesla. I laughed out loud at how fast it went. Been clinically depressed my entire life, on dozens of medications, in a Tesla for 13 seconds, cured forever.
I mean, I think a Tesla is the most fun thing you could possibly buy ever. That's what it's meant to be. Our goal is to make it's not exactly a car. It's actually a thing to maximize enjoyment. It's maximum fun.